Uneasy is the head that wears the crown, most especially heads of governments constantly brainstorming on ways to effectively curtail the spread of the novel coronavirus. In encouraging and boosting their efforts, particularly in Lagos State, the Oni of Ife, Oba Enito Ogunwusi, donated motorized modular fumigators and drone-sized sprinkler to the Lagos State government while commending Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for his laudable initiatives towards combating the virus. Welcome to the Governor This Week. I am Lekan Onabanjo. The Oni of Ife, Oba Enito Ogunwusi, presented 3 locally made motorized modular fumigators to Lagos State government as his contribution in the fight against the novel coronavirus pandemic. The monarch also handed over a large-sized drone sprinkler to the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, for aerial fumigation purposes. While receiving the equipment, Governor Sanwo-Olu expressed appreciation to the royal father, describing him as an enabler and notable part of governance in Nigeria.
For us not to cross our legs and our arms and be looking at the global pandemic. It's unfortunate, it is actually happened, but we are looking at the sense of living and continuation of life. This is a very golden opportunity for us in our dear nation. We know that Lagos State is the epicenter. Lagos State is the focal point for our dear country. That's the rallying state for the entire country. This is the very first time that both the rich, the poor are all locked down in this country. You cannot go out, you cannot come in. And necessity is the mother of invention. It's about time for all of us to start to look inward. Anything that anybody has, it's all about time now for all of us to be condemning one another. Let us all come out and work towards how we can better our country. We can see our very active leaders, they're on their toes every day, giving updates, giving us feedback about what is happening in our their country. The country doesn't belong to them alone. It belongs to all of us. Let us all think of what we can do to our their country, not what the country can do to us. Legacy and posterity will judge each and every one of us. It's very important for us to know that the day we start thinking inward, thinking that we can do a lot of great things inwardly in our country and promote our technological base, the better for our dear nation. This time around that we are all locked in, we decided to come up with this initiative of locally made sanitizers, motorized sanitizers, fumigators, that is very environmentally friendly, that is very useful, and everything is being sourced locally within the confines of our dear country. This we are giving to Lagos State government as our widow's mite from our fabricating yard right inside my palace that I'm doing, and we are coming to donate to what the government, especially Lagos State government, is doing, because we know that they are the focal point in this country as far as this global pandemic is concerned. So on this note, I want to use this opportunity to appreciate what the ever-energetic governor is doing and the entire cabinet member. We will continue to pray for you and pray for our dear nation, that God will continue to be with our nation and be with all the good things we do. God bless Nigeria, God bless Lagos State, and God bless the people of our dear country. Thank you very much.
For using your office and your institution as a strong enabler to be able to communicate and pass on this message to our citizens. You are a critical part and arm of governance in itself, because you are one of our traditional institutions. And you leading this conversation today now to first being able to tell our people that COVID-19 is real. That's one of the things you're doing, that COVID-19 is real, and that even if being a global pandemic, we can also look inward and look for a local solution. And you've taken upon yourself to that. Whilst you are not going to sit back and just either criticize or moan or groan, that you want to actually give back and encourage, especially our local industry and the local economy, to be very creative and see what kind of local solutions can we bring about. I want to commend you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your thought process. And I want to thank you for using your office and your institution as an arm for us, for our people to know and to appreciate that what we are going through is real. It's not something that anybody has conjured, right? But something that we can solve and we can resolve together, collectively. And so one of the solutions which we've all been talking about is how do we either need to slow down the virus? How do we need to slow it down? And part of slowing down is all of the things you've said. Community distancing, wearing of the face masks, using of hand sanitizers. But you've now gone forward to do what we call environmental sanitizer, because that's what is happening now. So we need to also, because the virus sometimes, there are droplets, right? So, and I know that they could be everywhere. And what you've come up with today are things, that we can use to sanitize our environment, be it a market, be it an office, be it a place of worship, be it an event place, anywhere where people are congregating, you can actually use this as a means of, first desanitizing the place. And so I want to first commend you. I want to thank all of the initiatives that have come together to do this.
Ahead of the Monday expiration of the lockdown imposed by the federal government on Lagos, Ogun and the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos State government has introduced strict framework for movement and reopening of businesses. The set of new guidelines, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said, are to safeguard the gains which the state had made in the past 4 weeks in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. He revealed this during his 9th briefing at the State House in Marina.
Dear Lagosians, it has become imperative for me to address you again today, following the second phase of the lockdown on Lagos, Ogun and the FCT, and the national address by the President Muhammad Buhari 2 days ago. It is now my duty to share a broader framework for the implementation of the President's directive here in Lagos State. I'm directing that vehicles carrying food and agricultural produce into Lagos from any part of the country cannot have more than 7 passengers on board. The same applies when these vehicles are leaving the state. We are compelled to issue this directive because we have in recent times seen attempts to conceal people in trucks and other vehicles carrying essential items with the aim of sneaking in and out of the state. We are encouraging businesses in Lagos to commence the production of face masks as we roll out our new campaign to Mask Up Lagos. This is an opportunity for our people, especially the youth, to display their creativity and their artistic flair, to project the cultural spirit of Lagos and Nigeria to the world. I will now go on to share the details of how the presidential directives on the gradual easing of the lockdown of Lagos will be implemented and enforced going forward. Within the public service, our public officers in the entire unified public service from grade 1 to grade 12 will remain and work from home unless otherwise directed by the accounting officer. For all in grades 13 and above, the accounting officer will carry out a need assessment of critical staff, identify the essential office, and draw up a flexible work roster in compliance with social distancing principle. The head of service will provide further details via a circular between now and Monday, 4th of May. None of these directives apply to essential service providers. These are people that are on our front line, which are the fire service and emergency response service. Malls, stores, and markets in Lagos. All open markets and stores will be allowed to open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on selected days. All market stores will be allowed to open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on selected days. We're working out a schedule with the Market Association and with the Ministry of Local Government to determine which market will work on which day and which other days you will not work. And that will be out before Monday to see the scheduling of the market. But in days where you are allowed to work, you will not work beyond 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they are meant to observe precautionary measures of social distancing at very high level of personal hygiene and hand hygiene. Malls also will be allowed to open, like I said, with a proviso that they will not have more than 60% occupancy at any given time, the maximum, whilst ensuring that a 2-meter distance is maintained between every person and the next in the store. Hand sanitizers and wash basin must be provided at the entry point, and temperature check must be carried out at each and every of these malls. Eateries and restaurants. Eateries and restaurants will also be allowed to open between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., but they shall only do takeaways. The capacity of our public transportation system to reduce the risk of the contagion. The contagion will also be strengthened by a number of proactive measures we intend to take. And these are as follows. All commuters are mandated to wear face masks at all times, to sanitize with alcohol-based sanitizers, and to wash their hands with soap and running waters at every trip. All transport operators and companies are expected to sanitize their vehicles, their parks and garages regularly and continuously, at least before and after every trip. All transport operators are expected to have alcohol-based sanitizers in their vehicles for their drivers, conductors, and their passengers. All motor parks and garages must avoid overcrowding. Social distancing is required for passengers queuing to board any of these buses. All buses should load to a maximum of 60% of their full capacity, meaning that if your capacity is 10 passengers, you cannot load more than 6 at any given time. No standing in all BRT and the Lagos bus service bus operation. All air conditioning systems in the public service, in all these public systems also must be switched off. All operators, drivers and conductors are also mandated to wear face masks and hand gloves while in transit and to dispose same appropriately. All of these guidelines as outlined, face mask, regular disinfection, hand washing, temperature check, maximum of 60% capacity, shall comply with all transport systems and also water transportation operators. In addition, all the waterways transportation will be allowed to move from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily on further notice. So they must close by 5 p.m. on water transportation. Commercial motorcycles, popularly known as Okadas, are to be suspended even after the partial lockdown because they cannot observe social distancing on this Okada. So they will still not be allowed as a means of transportation. However, the tricycle will be restricted to 2 passengers maximum if you need to operate at all within this time frame that has been slated. For offices and businesses, from May 4th, 2020, businesses will be allowed to operate within a framework that is called a controlled easing freeze. So what that means is that we do not want to shut down our entire economy, so we're expected to have a gradual easing of their businesses.
The Lagos State government and leaders of the organized labor unions held a low-key event to commemorate the 2020 Workers' Day. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu used the opportunity of the May Day anniversary to appreciate frontline health and emergency workers, whom he described as heroes, for sacrificing their personal well-being for the efforts at combating the coronavirus pandemic.
I'm indeed delighted to be taking part in this year's Workers' Day celebration and to have the opportunity to address all our workers in the state on this very important occasion. Of course, it's the first that our administration will be having, but it's also a very unique one. It is only fitting that I kick off by dedicating this year's commemoration of the day to the celebration of our true heroes of this season. And I'm sure you agree with me that our health workers who are on the front line of the battle against COVID-19 are indeed our true heroes for the 2020 Day celebration. Since this virus began to ravage our communities and disrupt our lives, these heroes have not just been going to work daily, they have actually been going to war on a daily basis to actually confront an unseen enemy. To you all, our courageous doctors, our nurses, our paramedics, our domestic health workers, our pharmacists, our physicians and laboratory technologies, I render this heartfelt gratitude of the government and the good people of Lagos State to each and every one of you. To our security agencies who go out daily, the police, the neighborhood watch, the fire service and all of them, deferring the fear of the virus to keep our own lives and our property safe, this day belongs to all of you. I also want to pay special gratitude to all our street sweepers, our medical waste handlers, our PSP operators, our frontline emergency responders, our firemen, like I said earlier, who will never forget, we will never forget your toll and the risk you are bearing during this very unusual time in our history. My dear people of Lagos State, the commemoration of the Workers' Day every year provides an opportunity to remind ourselves that development must be far-reaching and inclusive for it to be beneficial to the society at large. You, the workers of Lagos State across the public and private sector that represent our various labor unions, are the engine rooms of our economy and our society. You are the nucleus of wealth generation. That is why, as an administration, we will always seek harmonious relationship with the workers for the progress and prosperity of our dear state. Lagos State was among the very first, if not the very first indeed, to reach an agreement with the labor on the implementation of the new minimum wage for workers in our public service. And has been alluded by the various speakers that we even pay higher than what was recommended at that time. Moreover, as part of our ongoing efforts to curtail the spread of COVID-19 in the state, I approved a 400% increase in the hazard allowance of our health workers in the state for the month of April. Thereafter, there has been representation for us to see how it's not only for April, but also push it for other months. I can assure you that we'll continue to pay that allowance for a very long time, for as long as we have COVID around us. But I think it's important to also mention that beyond the general hazard allowance that we pay, that we also pay a COVID allowance, which far exceeds even what some of them earn as monthly salary. I'm sure, Ceci, we need to find out, and you realize that even what the state you mentioned are paying, I'm paying some of my COVID health workers on our front line hundreds of thousands of naira. right? If you do, go and find out, and we certainly will continue to support them because we realize that they are very critical and we cannot leave them alone. I want to similarly say that we need to empower our local entrepreneurs in the states. And that's why we commission our local tailors and seamstresses for the mass production of 2 million locally made face masks from our standard design recommended to each and every one of them. We have since begun the distribution of these face masks to identify stakeholders, and I can assure the NLC and the TUC that as you leave here today, we'll be giving you some of your own face masks that you can start distributing to your members. Likewise, we have continued to assist families of our workers who die in the line of duty. I'm sure you know that we pay checks to our fallen heroes, especially LASMA staff who, at the course of their duty, had fatality. And I'm also glad to announce to you that with the cooperation of some private sector, we have doubled insure our frontline health workers, especially on the COVID line. We have doubled insure them beyond the global statewide health compensation. We have also further reinsured them so that they have insurance at 2 levels just to cover them for this period. Equally, we have also made efforts to meet our pension obligations. We are accelerating the deployment of programs geared towards providing a social safety net for our aged and our retired workers of the public service. With effect from January 2020, Lagos State increased the employer's contribution to our employees' retirement savings account from 7.5 to 10% to complement an increase on the employee side, who increased their own from 7.5 to 8%. I must also commend our labor union leaders for their understanding and cooperation with our administration over the last 1 year. I must stress that the industrial harmony and the peace we'll enjoy in the state is in large part due to the maturity, the cooperation of the various labor union leaders that we have. I therefore applaud the leadership of the various unions in the state for adopting alternative dispute resolution mechanism rather than resorting to combative measures. I'm proud of what we have so far achieved together, and I'm also grateful for the cooperation and support that you have given me and my colleagues in the cabinet. Together, we have given the people of Lagos State a productive public service. The need to continue along this path is essential, especially at this very critical time. I further want to assure us that working together will not only make this administration stronger, but it will make each and every one of us better working and harmonious living relationship. And I believe that it will create and protect the right incentives for each and every of our workforce. On the journey ahead, I want to assure Lagosians that as a government, our concern is not just to win this fierce battle against the virus, but our determination to win the war completely. We shall reclaim our land back from this marauding virus, who we all are on the collective mission to take back from our citizens, from our environment, what none of us dreamt of at the beginning of this year. At this point in time, workforce needs to be in place. Jobs needs to be secured. It is not an era of profitability. We all need to stay alive. We not need to begin to look at how much profit or how much dividend do we need to take back. It is now a case of how many people do we need to keep at work, and that is the most critical thing that everybody needs to have.
From Monday, 4th of May this year, government will be implementing the dusk to dawn curfew announced by President Muhammadu Buhari. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says it is part of the phased measures to reduce risk of COVID-19 spread among the residents and to consolidate on the response strategy deployed to combat the pandemic. And that's it on the governor this week. But then you can continue with conversations of the governor's activities on all the social media platforms showing on your screen. See you next week. I am Lekan Onabanjo.